The headlines: the flu season is here. Ministry reports cases of H1N1 virus. Cable and wireless reports increase Barbados profits. And Barbados is poised to begin the West Indies cricket season. Welcome to Nation News for Thursday, November the 5th, 2015. Barbados is reporting cases of the H1N1 virus, which is often called the swine flu, but is currently a seasonal flu virus found in humans. The Ministry of Health reports that 5 samples sent to the Port of Spain-based Caribbean Public Health Agency have tested positive for the virus. 3 of the cases required hospitalization. The Ministry of Health says it is awaiting results of 5 more samples. It says a shipment of the seasonal influenza vaccine containing the H1N1 virus has been received and is being offered to frontline workers in the health sector and people in high-risk groups. It is also available from doctors in the private sector. The virus is spread in exactly the same way as ordinary colds and flu, and the symptoms, such as high fever, are the same. As traffic deaths rise, a new effort is being made to take the message of road safety to the very young. The Barbados Road Safety Association has inducted the first group of junior road rangers at Sharon Primary School. They'll be provided with safety training which they'll be expected to share with their fellow pupils and parents. Assistant Police Superintendent Ronald Stanford used the ceremony to appeal to road users to take greater care on the island's roads in light of a 54% increase in road deaths for the year so far.
I don't want to appear to be casting blame with the recent accidents, but it goes without saying that the use of alcohol and driving at excessive speeds have contributed to most of those fatal accidents, or what have been told fatal collisions. So I implore you, as the year winds down, we know there will be Independence celebration, we know that Christmas will be soon here, and that is another celebration for us. But I want you to celebrate and celebrate responsibly. In that, if you are going to drive, please don't drink. And if you're going to drink, please don't drive.
One common road safety tip is for partygoers to choose a designated driver ahead of time. Road Safety Association President Charmaine Rowland Bowen said this has grown in importance as some taxi drivers are reported to be working under the influence of alcohol.
We have no breathalyzer legislations. And we all know of a case where the blind cannot lead the blind. Only on Saturday I was talking to one of my student parents, and she told me that her husband was out partying. He wanted to get home and he called his taxi to take him home. While he's driving in the taxi, he called her and he told her, man, this man more drunker than I am. So because we have no legislation to breathalyze these people, and test these taximen as well, these taximen are drinking and then carrying passengers. So my recommendation, if you know you're going to be drinking, plan ahead. Designate a driver. Make someone has to make the sacrifice for you to get home safe. You plan it before, you don't wait until you get there and people start drinking and the one that is less drunk drive. You don't do it that way either. You plan ahead who is going to make the sacrifice, who's going to be the designated driver this week. Next week you have another designated driver.
As the battle for control of banks' holdings gets ever more bad-tempered, a call has come for a sober assessment of the fate of Bajan companies. Banks is facing a total foreign ownership from the 2 bids on the table, causing consternation among some local share owners. But we're being advised not to get caught up in sentimentality and nationalism when it comes to the ownership of companies. That from David Simpson, immediate past president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants. He says foreign direct investment is critical to the country's development. He told a panel discussion the issue should not center on whether a locally based company is Barbadian owned.
is a Heineken beer any less Dutch because it is brewed in Castries, St. Lucia? Is a Banks beer going to be any less Barbadian because it is owned by somebody from Latin America or even Trinidad? I don't know. I think we're focusing on the ownership. The product to me is what is Barbadian. The history behind the product is what is Barbadian. The innovation behind it is Barbadian. Who owns it? I don't care how many Europeans own the patents for a steel pan. There's nobody that convinced me that a steel pan is anything more than a Trinidadian innovation. So I leave that thought with you, but I don't think we should be averse to the foreign direct investment. If it's going to happen.
Speaking at the same forum, a former high-ranking public servant charged that the local private sector failed to steer investment to the Southern Caribbean when the country was doing well. Retired Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance, William Lane, said this failure to act is the reason that companies are being taken over.
Why wasn't the investment flowing south when we were riding high? Why? Because they weren't simply in it. You become victims of your success. You have a successful company. It's a public company. And people will want to buy you. Right? No, that's an economic decision. Me as a shareholder, the same decision I had to make as a shareholder Life of Barbados and as a shareholder Republic Bank. And I will make as a shareholder a Denon Geddes. Right? Which is, why am I investing in a company? To make money. I'm not investing for national sentiment because I like the manager or I like the board. You invest to make money. National sentiment does not enter into it.
The directors of Banks Holdings are resisting calls from bidder Ansa McCall for them to resign. The Trinidadian company is upset that Banks negotiated a funding deal for its Newton plant that has made a hostile takeover, as Ansa McCall is attempting, very difficult to achieve. BHL Director and Chairman of a Special Takeover Committee, Chris Takeris, says there's no basis for the resignation call. He told a media briefing that the directors went through the right process in securing the funding to the benefit of shareholders.
The shareholders have benefited very significantly from this. I wonder if the investment had in fact not materialized to the extent it has, whether we would have had two significant companies sharing an interest that they're sharing in at the moment, and whether our shareholders who have an investment in the company would have realized that investment uplift, which at the moment is going from $2.49 to $6, which is quite a significant uplift.
Banks Holdings attorney Barry Gale said it would be irresponsible of the board to resign.
I think it would be wholly irresponsible for the board of directors or any of the directors to resign as called for by Ansa McCall in the context where an active takeover bid exists and a committee of the board, independent committee of the board, is actually handling that process. So I think it would be totally irresponsible and in breach of actually their duties to the company as well as its shareholders for them to resign, leaving apart the fact that the directors believe that they acted quite responsibly and with the benefit of legal, financial and professional advice in entering into that agreement in the first place, which, as the acting chairman, Mr. DeCaries, has indicated, has resounded tremendously to the benefit of the company and its shareholders.
The battle between Ansa McCall and beer giant Ambev for control of banks is now in the court's hands after Ansa McCall secured a court injunction to suspend all trading of BHL shares. Another company which is facing a takeover, Cable and Wireless Communications, is reporting increased revenue and profits in Barbados. CEO Phil Bentley says local revenues for the first half of the year were $180 million, while profits were $66 million, a 4% increase. Speaking from London during a teleconference, Mr. Bentley said CWC had invested an additional $52 million in Barbados and was looking to get a return on that investment. Cable and Wireless, which is in takeover talks with international cable company Liberty Global, has itself, as you know, not long ago completed its own buyout of Flow. A joint funeral service will be held for 3 of the 4 young women who died in a car crash on 2 Mile Hill 2 Sundays ago. The service for Shamika and Shakira Shepherd and Waveney Johnson will take place at the gymnasium of the Garfield Sobers Sports Complex on Tuesday. It starts at 1 o'clock and is open to the public. Tributes will begin an hour earlier. Kiri Brathwaite also died in the crash, and a 5th occupant, Nakisha Shepherd, is a patient at the QEH. Sport now. The West Indies first-class cricket season starts on Friday with Barbados Pride hosting Jamaica Scorpions at Kensington Oval. Barbados have players like Captain Craig Brathwaite, Shea Hope and Kimar Roach available after West Indies duty. Brathwaite says his players are ready for the challenge. The Jamaican squad includes Kirk Edwards, a former Barbados captain, and will be led by, for the first time, by Paul Palmer, who previously represented combined colleges and campuses. The latest news on the long-awaited artificial service for the hockey centre at Wilde is that it should be released from the Bridgetown port within a week after a hold-up of more than 2 months. It is understood that the Ministry of Finance has waived various duties to make it easier for hockey officials to clear the turf. There's been no hockey played at Wilde for over 5 years. Finally, officials at a Brazilian prison say they have captured a trained mouse used by prisoners to shuttle drugs and other contraband between jail cells. Jean Carlos Gomes, director of the Barbara da Cota prison in Araguaina, said the tiny trafficker was spotted running through a prison corridor with bags of drugs tied to its tail. The investigation into the drug smuggling mouse turned up 29 small packets of marijuana and 23 packages of cocaine. A video shared by prison officials shows the tame mouse allowing investigators to pet it on the head. Mr. Gomes said officers are reviewing CCTV footage in an attempt to determine who was behind the scheme. Officials said the mouse was released outside the prison. And that's Nation News for Thursday.